Okay, so Ezekiel 38. The word, now remember, this goes along with the vision we just got done reading about the valley of dry bones coming back to life and then being united as one kingdom under one king. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, or human, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Now these are some obscure names, okay? We have not seen these names mentioned very much in the Bible. I think there's a reason for that. Let me go back and read where they came from. This goes back to the table of nations after the flood in Genesis 10. Let's go way back. Genesis 10, starting at the beginning of the book, chapter, excuse me. This is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, who themselves had sons after the flood. The sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. So these are some obscure names of people groups that Israel typically hasn't had to fight over the years. Gog seems to be a title for a guy. I'm not sure if there's a person. There was, from what I read, a king named Gygas or something like that who reigned somewhere in this region of the world around this period of time. I don't know if that name is the inspiration for this name Gog, or where this name Gog came from, honestly. But these people, that's a guy. Like Gog himself is a guy here. It's a leader, a title for a leader of some kind. But these people groups, Magog and Meshech and Tubal, these are some obscure descendants. I mean, they're not obscure in the sense that we don't know who they are, but they're obscure in the sense that they haven't been in the Bible story very much. Israel has not had to deal with these enemies, typically, throughout its history to this point. These are not the usual suspects of Israel's rogues gallery, like Edom and Moab and Ammon and the Philistines. Ezekiel mentioned them earlier. He had a section of prophecies about them before, but this is not that like this. So this is kind of, I think the idea being communicated here is that even after these enemies that you've been dealing with throughout your history are gone, you'll be in the land again. Edom won't be there, Moab won't be there, Ammon won't be there, the Philistines won't be there, the Amalekites won't be there. Like all your traditional enemies who have been fighting you forever, they will be there. But even when they're gone, people are still going to want to attack you. Even if it's not the Edomites, even if it's not the Moabites, even if it's not the Ammonites, even if it's not the Phoenicians, even if it's not the Philistines, even if it's not the Amalekites, even if it's not the Egyptians, even if it's not the Assyrians, even if it's not the Babylonians, people are still going to want to attack you. They may come from the corners of the earth to do it. They may come from the farthest reaches of the land to do it, but they are going to come and attack you. They're never going to stop attacking you, even when you're in your land, living safely and securely. And even when you have rest of your enemies on all sides, there's always going to be enemies that are going to want to attack the people of God. Set your face against Gog of the land of Magog. Prophesy against the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Prophesy against him and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I'm against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. There's a footnote in your Bibles probably that's by that chief prince, and it says down here, Prince of Rosh. Some people say that, I don't know the language, but some people say that there should be a word called Rosh in there instead of chief prince. It probably means chief prince. They want to put Rosh in there because they want it, from there they want to get Russian. Okay, there's some people who want to say this refers to some future Russian invasion of Israel that's going to happen like at the end of time. And part of the reason why they say that is because they want to insert the word Rosh in there instead of chief prince, and they want to say that the word Russian comes from Rosh or whatever. But it probably just means chief prince. So Gog is a guy, and he is from the land of Magog, and he is a chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around. I am against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army, your horses, your horsemen fully armed, and a great horde with large and small shields, all of them brandishing their swords. Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them. All, that's to the east. Okay, Persia's to the east. Cush is Ethiopia, and Put, that's to the south. Meshech and Tubal to the north. So they're coming from all the way around. Israel is being attacked on all sides. All will be with them, all with shields and helmets. Also Gomer, that's another name we read from the sons of Japheth and the Table of Nations, with all his troops, and Beth Togarmah from the far north, with all his troops, the many nations with you. So north, south, east, and west, they're coming from anywhere. They're coming from all the way around. Get ready. Be prepared, you and all the hordes gathered around you, and take command of them. After many days you will be called to them. In future years you will invade a land that has recovered from war. So after they're back, after the people are back in the land, after the nation has been resurrected and living in the land again, as we read about in Ezekiel 37, this is going to happen sometime after that. So that's many days in the future from Ezekiel's perspective. Ezekiel is getting this prophecy around he's getting all these when the city falls. We read about that in Ezekiel 33 and 34. And so that's in 585 or so BC when he's getting these prophecies. And this refers to a time, they wouldn't go back to the land for another 50 years or so, and this refers to a time well after that. So well after they've returned to the land and are living in, say, safety and security there. It doesn't mean the end of time. Okay, it doesn't mean we see this term many days or future years or latter times, and our brains want to think of it as like the end of the world, but that's not what that means. In future years you will invade a land that has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which have long been desolate. They have been brought out from the nations, and now all of them live in safety. You and all your troops and the many nations with you will go up, advancing like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. This is what the Sovereign Lord says. On that day, thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil scheme. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. I will invade a land of unwalled villages. Unwalled villages means we're living in peace. I will attack a peaceful land, and a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls and without gates and bars. I will plunder and loot and turn my hand against the resettled ruins, and the people gathered from the nations, rich in livestock and goods, living in the center of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all her villages will say to you, have you come to plunder? Have you gathered your hordes to loot, to carry off silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, and to seize much plunder? Therefore, Son of Man, so now he's talking to Ezekiel again. Prophesy and say to Gog, this is what the Sovereign Lord says. In that day, when my people Israel are living in safety, will you not take notice of it? You will come from your place in the far north, you and many nations with you, all of them riding on horses, a great horde, a mighty army. You will advance against my people Israel like a cloud that covers the land. In days to come, O Gog, I'll bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me when I show myself holy through you before their eyes. This is what the Sovereign Lord says. Are you not the one I spoke of in former days by my servants, the prophets of Israel? At that time they prophesied for years that I would bring you against them. Now, actually, as far as I can tell, this is the first time we've ever heard about Gog in the Bible. So he's talking about something more generally than just this one individual, this one entity. This is what will happen in that day. When Gog attacks the land of Israel, my hot anger will be aroused, declares the Sovereign Lord. And my zeal and fiery wrath, I declare that at that time there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. The fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the beasts of the field, every creature that moves along the ground, and all the people on the face of the earth will tremble at my presence. The mountains will be overturned, the cliffs will crumble, and every wall will fall to the ground. I will summon a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the sovereign Lord. Every man's sword will be against his brother. He's done that before. He has sent the enemies against each other in battles in the past against Israel. I will execute judgment upon him with plague and bloodshed. He's done that before too. I will pour down torrents of rain, hailstones, and burning sulfur on him. He's done all that before as well. And on his troops and on the many nations with him. And so I will show my greatness and my holiness. And I will make myself known in the sight of many nations. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Son of man, prophesy against Gog and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I'm against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around and drag you along. I'll bring you from the far north and send you against the mountains of Israel. Then I will strike your bow from your left hand and make your arrows drop from your right hand. On the mountains of Israel you will fall, you with all your troops and all the nations with you. I'll give you as food to all kinds of carrion birds and to the wild animals. You will fall in the open field, for I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. I will send fire on Magog, that's the land that Gog is from, and on those who live in safety in the coastlands. And they will know that I am the Lord. Those are the lands that the ships reach when they sail the Mediterranean Sea. I will make known my holy name among my people Israel. I will no longer let my holy name be profaned. And the nations will know that I, the Lord, am the Holy One in Israel. It is coming. It will surely take place, declares the sovereign Lord. This is the day I have spoken of. This is the day of the Lord. I believe this is referring to the day of the Lord. The absolute one time, for all time, at the end of time, day of the Lord. We'll read about this in Revelation. I said earlier that we're going to have to skip ahead to Revelation to fully understand what Ezekiel's talking about here. And we're going to do that in a moment. But I believe this is actually we think of Judgment Day, we think of the end of the world. I actually do believe this is referring to the final day of the Lord. The day of the Lord, as we've been reading about throughout these prophets, is the day when the Lord comes in judgment. And that can happen throughout history. There have been many days of the Lord. God comes in judgment against people and against nations throughout history. I believe he still does to this day. I believe there are still days of the Lord that occur in history even now, when God comes in. In the end, the day of the Lord is when any of us faces God. Each of us is going to experience our own individual day of the Lord on the day that we die, whether we're ready for it or not. And that can happen on an individual level, or a family level, a community level, or a national level. And there is also going to be, and we've been reading that throughout the prophets, okay? We've been reading it throughout the prophets, this concept of the day of the Lord. And it happens throughout history. It's not just an end of history thing. There is an end of history day of the Lord. There is a one time for all time and the end of time day of the Lord that's going to occur. But there have been many days of the Lord that have occurred throughout history, all throughout history. But basically, whenever the day whenever the Lord comes in judgment, there comes a day when God will have His say. God will have His day. In the end, like, we're not going to be able to escape it. We can be ready for it. We can be ready for it. For those who are ready for it, the day of the Lord is not a day of doom and gloom. It's a day of salvation and deliverance. But no one can escape the day of the Lord. Sooner or later, God is going to have His day. You and I will each experience our own days of the Lord at some point in time. If we're not ready for it, it is a day of abject terror and destruction. If we are ready for it, and we can be ready for it, it's a day of salvation and deliverance. But I believe this is actually, and most of the time throughout the Bible, when we read about the day of the Lord, it's referring to these days of the Lord that happen in the course of time. the vast majority of the time when the concept of the day of the Lord is communicated, it's referring to the day the Lord comes in judgment on a nation or on a people, sometimes even against a person, but usually it's a communal level. And it's not referring to the absolute end of time. But there is going to be a day of the Lord that does occur at the end of time. A one time for all time at the end of time day of the Lord. And I believe this is actually referring to that. I believe Ezekiel 38:39 is actually referring to the one time for all time at the end of time day of the Lord. Now, I don't think it's going to be a battle like this, where these nations are going to get their horses and their bows and their arrows and their swords and move towards Israel. I don't believe that. I don't believe it's going to be that. But I do believe, and I'll demonstrate this when I get to Revelation and we read about this again from a different perspective. But I do believe that this is actually referring to the one time for all time at the end of time day of the Lord, or Judgment Day as we often refer to it as. I do think that's what's in mind here. I will make known my holy name among my people Israel. I will no longer let my holy name be profaned. And the nations will know that I, the Lord, am the Holy One in Israel. It is coming. It will surely take place, declares the Sovereign Lord. This is the day I have spoken of. So when he said it a little while ago, in chapter 38, verse 17, this is what the Sovereign Lord says, "Are you not the one I spoke of in former days, of my servants the prophets of Israel?" Well, he hasn't spoken of this in former days. Okay, this is the first time I've ever seen the word Gog appear. He has not addressed Gog or referred to Gog before. So he's talking about something more general than a statement against this one guy, because he has not spoken about this in former days to his other prophets. Ezekiel is the first one to bring this up. But he has spoken about coming in judgment against his enemies. So we know that this Gog character is not just one person. He stands for all the enemies of God. And God has spoken about coming in judgment on them. There will come a day when he will defeat these enemies and get rid of them. It is going to happen. Then those who live in the towns of Israel will go out and use the weapons for fuel. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start a new video here.